Hi, Evan Attwood, your host for the Squiddly Show! Yes! That is the appropriate response. Joining me for this fantastic episode of the Squiddly Show, welcome to the stage, Courtenay Taylor! It's still early, so we're all sleepy.
Beverages. Lots and lots of beverages.
Shout out to the audience who's sleepy right now!
Wake up.
Yes. We're here to talk your ears off.
Exactly.
So, hi, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
How are we doing?
We are good.
So we just found out, just off stage, that neither of us like ketchup.
Yeah.
What? Interesting fact to start the show.
I don't like ketchup.
It's so gross.
But I do like Vegemite because I lived in
Tried
Australia
Vegemite.
when I was a kid, and I love Vegemite. So
I
people
read
think
that
I'm
you
crazy.
currently hold a dual citizenship.
Triple, actually.
Triple.
My mother is English, and I am English through her, and then I have Australian citizenship, and I was born in America.
Excellent.
Uh-huh.
Have you been able to utilize that to its fullest acting and performance potential? That's like the holy grail.
I'm actually going to Australia next month, so I'm going to make sure that I can have like a work visa over there.
For business or pleasure?
I'm going for business. I'm going for the PAX Australia. It's the game developer PAX, so it's going to be super fun.
I'm still blown away that like PAX has gone worldwide. I remember there was just PAX, and it was Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have PAX West, PAX East, PAX Australia, and
There's PAX Dev that happens
Yeah.
right before PAX West.
oh, I think we're having a microphone.
Check.
Oh,
No,
there we go.
it's back.
We're back.
My mic tech's not.
They're just keeping us on our toes.
That's right. So yes, it's a big thing now.
Awesome. So you travel around quite a bit for conventions these
Yes.
days with all of your fantastic credentials. How is the con travel life?
It's excellent. I just went and did Dragon Con in Atlanta, and they are big game people, video game people. So I don't know, I'm assuming if you are here that you kind of know the stuff that I do, but if you don't, I am Amanda Holliday in Destiny. I'm Jack from Mass Effect. Ada Wong from Resident Evil.
If you
some
forget
games.
any, I have a
Oh yeah, oh hit me. Let's,
So you were a guard in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
perhaps, yes, I was guard number
Pinnacle episode,
Yeah.
Boiling Rock episode.
Two-parter.
Oh yeah, and you were in both parts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, classic. We also have news reporter in Wizards of Waverly Place.
Oh my God.
I'm pulling out the deep cuts.
Okay, so here's the thing. If we're getting into my best, I have played the Paula Abdul judge in American Idol several times.
I believe that was your first voiceover.
It was my
Or video game at least.
video game.
Yeah.
Yes, the American Idol video game. Kids are like, Paula Abdul was on American Idol? Yes, she was.
That was a while ago.
And then I did
Recycle
a
judges.
Paula Abdul spoof on a show called iCarly.
Oh, fun.
Yes. So I was there was an episode about tacos, which is funny because I love tacos. That's not really funny, but I mean,
It's delightful and important.
I
to know.
am a taco freak, so my nickname is Taco Bell with an E on the end.
Aw.
And yeah, there was a taco judging contest, and I was the Paula Abdul slightly inebriated one.
Oh, fun.
But not because it was iCarly.
Oh, so it was just like a
It was
subtle,
just
like,
a
oh, she's
wacky-doo kind
she's
of
a
lady.
little wacky.
Yeah, she
Oh.
was, but we know.
You gotta keep it toned down a little
Yes.
bit for the kids.
But I was a Jedi. I was Jedi Juhani in Knights of the Old Republic.
That's right.
And if we're going deep cuts.
Oh, we're gonna go deep cuts.
And then
You have such an extensive IMDb that like it's hard not to just like throw a dart and find like, oh, it's a deep cut.
yeah. There's been a lot of cool stuff. Lucky.
Hex from the Skylanders
Hex from
series.
Skylanders.
And that's
yes.
huge. That has been you've been Hex in like well over like 3 or 5 games.
Yeah, and also the series. I was one of the. I might have been one of like 3 actors that did the games and then got to do the TV show. And didn't get recast with a celebrity.
Wow.
I know. I was like, what? Oh my gosh.
You
like,
made the cut.
Yeah, Mandy Moore's not taking over as Hex.
You're that good. Jack in Mass Effect.
Yes.
Now, so you've been Jack in how many Mass Effect games now?
2, and a lot of DLC.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was actually curious. I wanted to ask about, because I think you've been in a couple of DLCs.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like going from like working on a game, having a completed project? Do you already have your recording done for a DLC? Like, do they have that planned ahead of time? Or do you think you're done with the job and then they're like, guess what? No.
No, well, I think when I was first starting out, I didn't ask questions as much, and they didn't share as much information. I think now that I'm a little bit more of a known quantity, people do like kind of let me know. I didn't know that I wasn't sure there would be a third Mass Effect, and now usually like I just finished a game that will be coming out next week. It's really cool. I can't talk about.
Oh, it's still hush hush.
But
okay.
You'll know when it comes out. It's really good.
But
they've already said like, oh, when her DLC comes out. So that's nice to know that you actually, because every day that I leave the studio, I'm always like, well, I don't have a job tomorrow. Like I'm unemployed every single day. And if you're like me, and I suffer from some anxiety, that can be very stressful.
I do too.
So,
Isn't that great?
So it's great to walk out and just be like, who knows? Will I be able to pay rent next month? Who knows? Will I be driving this car or taking the bus? Who knows? And so it's nice to be like, when I worked, I was also the female player voice for Fallout 4. And they were like, this is going to be a lot of sessions. And I was like, oh, great. I thought it was going to be like 8 or 9. I was like, sweet. And then they were like, oh, no. And they brought out like the Bible. And it was like, and I was like, oh, that's so much work.
I have heard
2 years.
I have heard so many stories about the giant Bibles involved with those open world games.
Oh God!
Because you have to have voice options for literally every possible or conceivable option, and these are games that give everybody the option to do anything.
Yeah.
So that was a 4-year process?
Actually, so Fallout 4, they did mocap tests. I think it ended up being about 6 years in total, but I worked on the actual Fallout 4 game and the 3 DLCs that came out afterwards. That was 2 years of recording, and then, that's a lot.
What were the sessions like for that one?
For video games, we normally do 4-hour sessions. It's just us in the booth. We don't do group sessions. For the most part, because voice actors talk too much, and so they can't get anything done. We did group records on a game called Halo Wars, and it was me and Nolan North and David Sobolov and nobody. Like they were just like, shut up and say the lines, and we were like, rah, 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 rah. What? Huh? Oh,
Wound up hurting cats.
Yeah, exactly. Herding feral kittens is what it really was like. So
that sounds more adorable. Though.
Exactly, and bitey. So I don't even remember what the question was.
What were the recording sessions like?
Oh, what were they like? So it's 4 hours, just us, and we would do. So there's a male player as well. So he would do the morning sessions because he's a super morning person. He's all perky and he has like 15 kids, and he's always like, I ate a bunch of sugared cereal. I'm awake. And I would like slink in at like 1 o'clock, like, okay, can we just not do this at 9 o'clock at night? So we would record for like 4 or 5 days, and then they would take it back and work on it for like 3 weeks, and then we would do another session. But they kind of wrote it as we went along. So there was a Bible that they kind of followed, but there was also a lot of stuff that changed. It was very malleable.
It kept evolving as the process went on.
Yeah.
How many pages do you think roughly you would be able to get through this project like that per day?
It depends on. So with Fallout, it was. It wasn't like a screamy action game. So what it runs like is that if I'm doing like call outs like on a game like Call of Duty or something. I played a Russian soldier in Call of Duty 2, and that was all like military barks. So you can go through those pretty quickly because it's like, give me the gun, put the gun down, pick the gun back up.
There's only so many deliveries you can give those lines.
And you can get through like 600 cues in 4 hours, which is, that's 150 cues that you're doing 2 to 3 per minute. So it's a pretty fast clip. But then when it's a lot of exposition stuff, like I work on Elder Scrolls, and the lines are like a paragraph of words made up words, and so that's we go through it's a quick pace too, but most of the time it's like, how do you pronounce this? And everyone's like, well, I think we've been pronouncing it this way, but hold on, let's make a call.
How do you pronounce a word with 6 J's?
Yeah, and a Y and a Z, and you're like, forget it.
They're just making up their own language.
And sometimes I'm like, you guys are just messing with us, right? Like, I'm sure the writers are like,
serious.
let's see if they can pronounce this one.
I'm blown away at the extensive lore of the Elder Scrolls series in general.
It's amazing.
I played what was it? The third Morrowind. I played Morrowind back in like high school, and I was like, this game is great. And then like years later, I don't think anything of it. I come back and they're like, oh, there's a bunch more games, and there's this entire universe of lore spanning dimension traveling gods and stuff. I'm like, what happened? I just wanted to.
I stepped away for a decade, and what happened?
I just wanted to pickpocket a Catman.
Exactly.
That's all I wanted to do.
Hey, those are my people.
They're fun. The Khajiit.
Eastern European cat lady.
Oh, fun. Can we get a little Khajiit?
Maybe. This one. This one says no.
Oh, okay,
no Khajiit for you.
No Khajiit for me. Excellent. Now, I actually just recently purchased a game that I have not started yet, that I found out you were in, and I'm very excited. Batman, Arkham Knight.
Ah, yes. It's so funny because I'm in that for like two seconds.
They're going to be
and
the
people
best
are
2
like,
seconds of the game.
What's up, Sergeant Hanrahan? And I'm like, okay. I'm the woman who's arguing with her husband in like the diner, and then and everyone's like, what's up, Batman? And I'm like, of all the things I've done, this is, okay, cool.
Sure. And now,
say hi.
Batman, just there. I'm excited.
I'm excited, you're excited.
And then, let's see, regular show.
Yes.
So you are Starla.
Yes.
Principal.
Yes.
And then you are also, I have here in my notes,
oh no,
Starla plus, and then I just wrote the infinity symbol.
500 ancillary
like
characters.
500 ancillary characters. What is it like working on a show like that where you have your home, you have your mainstay, this is your character, and then you're just thrown so many other things to do. Do they just pull you aside after like every recording session, go like, oh, by the way, we just want to get a couple extra things, or do they plan for that? Do you do additional days for that?
Well, okay, so working on animation is different because those are group reads, and so and you do get the script in advance, which is different than games because most of the time you don't. In video games, they're just like, surprise, this is what you're doing.
Here's a book, read it.
Like, yeah. But with regular show, that was my first sort of regular animation gig. And so we would get the scripts in advance, and so I was already nervous because when I went in to start work on, they were like I walked in and everyone had already been established. They had been working on it for a couple of seasons at that point. And fun fact, the iCarly episode I did with the tacos, the other judge was the guy who ended up playing Rigby. So when I was at iCarly, he was like, hey, I think I really like doing, I did some VO and it's cool, and can you give me any pointers? And I was like, oh, sure, let me give you some pointers. And we had this big conversation, and I'm like, well, good luck, buddy, like, let me know if you need anything. Cut to like 2.5 years later, I walk in and he's the lead on the show, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's going pretty well for you.
Your advice worked out
apparently,
very well.
Talk to me about getting into voiceover because you'll be the lead on a very popular show in 2.5 years.
I'm really excited for my 2.5 years from now.
That's right. Write that down, kids. What was the question? How did they prepare? So, sorry, I have ADHD.
Principal character versus
principal character.
The ancillary characters.
So I would be like, okay, yay, Starla, and then I would look at the script and it would say like, like Japanese game show girl or something, and I'm like, or like Rigby's mom or something like that, and it was a great learning experience because you really just ended up being like, okay, because working in video games for me is very much like, it's very grounded, very cinematic acting, where it's really dramatic to me, and animation is way more, it's still got the same tenets of, the scene study parts of things, like what your character's doing. It's just heightened circumstances and heightened reactions to things. but it moves at such a way quicker clip
Yeah.
and everything, and they do throw you stuff where you're like they might throw me like an Eastern European cat lady or something in a game, and I'm like, oh, that's fine. But like when they're like, you're a 2-year-old like, you know, dragon baby or something, and you're just like, oh, okay. So it kind of turns your brain. Somebody like Kari Waldron does that stuff all the time. She walks in every day and it's just like, oh, what are we doing? That's fine, because that's her forte is animation. But for me, I was always like on the tightrope of just like, oh, don't screw this up, okay, oh my God. Because sometimes they'd be like, let me hear your version of this. And if you suck, then they just go to somebody else in the cast and they're like, yeah, okay, how about your version of that? And so they like, it's a little stressful. And so it's fine, but like when you're working with people like, and then of course I walk in on my first day and they're like, where should we put her? Let's put her here. You can sit next to Mark. And I'm like, Mark Hamill? I'm gonna sit next to Mark Hamill? And I was like,
Yep.
hold on 1 second. And I like walked out in the hallway. I was like,
That is the appropriate reaction.
and then I'm like, okay.
Calm and composed.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Courtney. I'm like,
Was it Mark?
inside.
Was it Mark?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm sorry, what was your last name? And inside I'm like the 9-year-old in me is like, ah! Every single time. And he would just be like, what's your name again? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. My name does not matter. Your name matters.
Now, perfect segue. Speaking of hyperactive screaming 9-year-olds.
Yes.
Your performance on OKKO.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So that is, I think, that is your most recent kind of continuous, ongoing. It's still going. Yeah?
Oh yeah.
How is it?
So
Are
working
you
on.
enjoying it?
Oh my gosh, OKKO is so different than anything. So most of the stuff that I've worked on has been video games like Resident Evil or Fallout or see you. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
yes. Thank you. So it's a huge departure from like Ada Wong or Jack from Mass Effect, and so it was kind of a dream when they were like, "You're going to play this 6 to 11-year-old boy who wants to be a superhero, or just a hero, actually." And I just, for the first season, I just kept pinching myself because it was so. I had a really hard year personally the first season, and to be able to get. The great thing about going to work as a voice actor is you walk into the booth and everything else kind of, like you literally shut the door on the world, and it can be really amazing way to kind of get out of whatever you've got going on personally. And I had an extremely hard year and was really struggling with some pretty depressing stuff, and to go in and actually find this character that was so full of hope and light and, you know, loves people and wants to believe the best in people. It was this amazing, like, just escape. And I would walk out, and for a few hours afterwards, I would be like, it's gonna be okay, it's great. I'm so, you know, and then, you know, something would happen and I would kind of get kicked back to reality. But he's been an absolute, I'm so happy to be able to put that kind of work out into the world. Because sometimes I do think about, like, I want to put good out into the world. And some of the stuff that I work on, some of the video games are pretty violent. And, you know, I worry sometimes about content. And so to have this where Cartoon Network is really amazing. I'm sure you guys are Steven Universe fans. And Adventure Time and all that kind of, you know, those kinds of programs where the representation is pretty fantastic for people of, you know, different gender and sexuality identities, and so it makes me really happy to have, like, KO has a mom, a really strong mom that runs a dojo for heroes, and it's all women in the dojo, and you know that Mr. Gar is super tough and everything is like, hey, you know, and yet he is a bumbling like softie when he gets around KO's mom, and that there's
Well, we talked about this a little bit last night at the intro panel.
Mm-hmm.
Just how we're seeing an amazing like wave of really progressive animated series. A world without Mr. Rogers. We're finally getting shows that are like just showing people amazing examples of like just really good, simple, just morality and accepting other people.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, and it's wonderful that we get to see you as a part of that.
It's and I love the fact like Enid. If you guys watch the show, you know, we were all wondering like about Enid because she has some among the spoils, but in the end, I finally just asked Ian, who is our creator, who is Rebecca Sugar's partner. I was just like, "What's the deal?" And he's like, "Oh, she's bi, and I'm like, "Great, cool." Like, growing up, I grew up in San Francisco in the Castro, and like. Bay Area, woo!
Yeah, shout out to everyone from the Bay Area.
That's right. That's right. So I grew up in San Francisco in the Castro, and then we moved to Berkeley when I was 15, and I went to Berkeley High, and there was always kids with two moms or two dads, and kids. You know, I was a punk rock kid, and so it's really important for me to be part of representation for people who might be underrepresented in mainstream culture right now. Absolutely. And to support that's coming through, both in animation and in games. I think it's especially in video games. We have a long way to go, but I'm thrilled to see much wider representation.
It's fantastic. Now, you mentioned that you are a California native, as am I.
Yes. Yeah.
What was it like for you kind of getting into voice acting in this area? I mean,
Well,
was it a move down to LA, or was the fight really up here in the NorCal?
I got in. So when God was a boy or a girl, I got into. I went to ACT for in San Francisco, and I was applying for a master's program in New York, and I was also running a boxing gym at the same time because that's what you do. You punch people in the face and you do Shakespearean monologues. And I applied for a master's program in New York, and I was turned down because my voice was too deep and scratchy, and I had vocal cord nodes from screaming at people and in boxing. And
it's important to you're not just going
right.
out
I just wasn't screaming
at people,
but so I would be yelling at people to do push-ups and stuff like that, and so which has factored into a lot of my video game work.
That's good though.
Sergeant Hammer from Heroes of the Storm. That's just me teaching a boxing class.
And you were saying last night that being able to know what it's like to take a punch.
Yeah,
informs
totally
all your video.
Exactly, just, you know.
Yeah, shout out for people who know how to take a punch.
That's right.
Woo! Or somebody clapping.
I know, so like, whoa, yeah. Also, get punched in the face.
Oh, it's
and punching
fun.
someone in the face.
Great. Oh, better fun.
Don't try that at home, kids.
Don't, yeah. Only in the ring.
But there wasn't a lot of voice. So basically, I went and I got turned down for this audition, and he was like, "You have a terrible voice." And I went back to one of my teachers, and she said, "You should try voiceover." And I didn't know what it was. So she was like, "You know, when you listen to commercials on TV, they have like a bodiless voice that talks." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I love that stuff. I love singing jingles and stuff like that." And so I went to my first voiceover class, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I love this. This is like what I was meant to do." Because I grew up, like, you know, in San Francisco traffic, reading to my mom, like, you know, The Phantom Toll Booth, or like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and those kind of books, and like, you know, making all the characters and stuff. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of work in San Francisco. So although I did do some commercial work up here, I had an agent up here eventually, which is a whole other story, but I harassed an agent into being my agent. Don't give up, kids. Just keep trying. No is just yes to a different question.
It helps if you are a professional boxer as well, I'd imagine.
Or just persistently pushy.
Oh.
I call it professionally persistent?
I like that.
But,
that is a very nice way of saying.
Just keep calling back.
Yeah.
So I did end up moving down to Los Angeles and actually not working down there for like a year. I was a waitress forever. So I waited tables at like the Cheesecake Factory and stuff and just cried in my car every day after work. But eventually I got an agent and I started working, and because if you do want to work in voiceover, animation, video games, and commercials are all done in LA. Whereas up here, it's pretty difficult, I think, to make a living doing
It is tricky.
So.
I mean, we're seeing more and more, there's a lot more video game development.
Right. You have
in
2K
this
up
area.
here, who does a lot of the sporting games.
Bungie as well
and-
does a lot
Uh-huh.
in the area.
Uh-huh.
But then I know...
And there's a lot of independent houses up here too,
Yes.
which is great.
And a lot of them tend to do a lot of commercial work.
Uh-huh.
You find a lot of commercial work up here, some video games,
Yeah.
but a lot of the major stuff is still going to be down in LA. Are you still in Are you down in LA
Yeah.
now? Oh.
I still have an agent up here and I have an agent in New York, but the majority of everything that I do is in Los Angeles. And so, but I come up here because I don't know. Yeah, it's where we go. That's right, it's hometown. Yeah. But it is, I think if you had any inclination to getting into voiceover work, it's a great small pond up here. And I'm super excited. I've been working with the interactive committee for SAG-AFTRA, which is our union, to work with some of the smaller independent video game companies up here to use union talent. Because there's some great stories that are coming out. Unfortunately, Telltale Games, who did The Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy.
You were in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I was Meredith Quill.
Peter Quill's mom?
Yes, Peter Quill's mom, Star-Lord's mom, just shuddered, which sucks. But
Like literally, if anyone's not familiar with the story, this is like very breaking news.
yeah,
It was what, last Friday before yesterday. They shut down and let everybody go
Yeah.
in the day.
yeah. So they kept like a core group of like 25 people on, but there's these amazing, I don't know if you guys play any of those games, but they're amazing storytellers and the games are beautiful and unfortunately all those people are looking now to be absorbed into different companies, but
I'm excited to see what other companies are going to do
Right.
with the fantastic
right.
just wealth of talent that Telltale had.
And I worked on something on Thursday with some people from Netflix. And I was just like, oh, by the way, I'm like, you should really buy the Stranger Things game from, like, I'm like, I know you guys are looking at it and they're just looking at me like, how do you know this? And I'm like, you should just buy it. Just buy it and buy The Wolf Among Us and buy all of it.
Buy all the properties.
Yeah, come on.
They're all going to be great.
Like, it's beautiful stuff. So if you haven't checked out their games, check it out.
Now, there was one more title on my fantastic card,
Uh-oh.
Deep Cuts.
Oh, no.
So you were in a film
Uh,
about a tire.
yes.
Were you expecting me to ask you about that?
Everybody loves the tire movie.
Okay, so I only know kind of like third hand about it. Would you mind describing the concept of this? Was it a short film or a feature?
Oh, no, it's a feature.
It's a full feature.
It's
okay.
a full feature. I was in a movie called Rubber. It is about a sentient tire. Thank
Rubber
you so
fan.
much. They're out there.
Yep.
So a French DJ, Mr. Boiseau, he decided to start directing, and his first feature was called Rubber, and it's about a sentient tire who is out for revenge. And so he's out in the desert and he kills people with his mind,
Yeah.
his tire mind. And so it's kind of David Lynch-esque, and I just play a cop. But the cool thing about it is that, and does anyone want to be an actor or a voice actor? Okay, so here's the deal with that. I saw the breakdown for this, and it said, looking for cops, the roles of cops, and it didn't say, it implied men, but it didn't say male only. So I just dropped off my headshot a couple of times and was like, it doesn't say I can't, so why not? And they were like, and I think I was like one of the only women who dropped off a headshot, and they were like, oh yeah, we don't have any girls in this, we need to have a girl in it. And so I booked the role of this cop, and it's with the people from the show Oz, if you ever watched that show, or the original cast of Angels in America on Broadway. It's a pretty great cast, and we just went out into the desert and
acted against
a tire. And the best part was that it was such a weird thing. He's very French, and he just was like walking around like smoking cigarettes and just, he was in the set, we had like a prop wheelchair, and he would just wheel around in it, and he could walk, but he would just wheel around in it smoking cigarettes, and so of course I'm with all these guys from Oz, and they're, real actors. And so I'm like, hey, I don't even understand what's going on in this script. It's so weird. Like, there's a killer tire. What? And And they're like, yeah, just act like you know what you're doing. And I was like, okay, great. And then finally,
it's a double acting job.
Yeah, finally one of them, like, we were like, hey, is this like a Keystone Cops thing? Are we supposed to be capable? Is this like, CSI or something? And he's just sitting there staring at us, smoking in his wheelchair. He's like, I don't know, man, just look for the tire. That's what you do, just look for the tire. And I was like, all right, we'll just look for tire. So that's what we did. I was like, is it here? No. Is it a black tire? Is it rubber? Yeah. So.
Is it a white wall?
That was literally, that's the whole scene.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah, it's very strange. But you know what? Never say no to acting jobs, because sometimes you do something and then you're 15 years later in Oakland and people are clapping for a killer tire movie that you did.
Yep.
Thank you.
And of course, look for every opportunity. If it doesn't say...
So yes.
Audition, if it doesn't specify something that you are not, just do it.
Seriously,
They need you.
No is just yes to a different question in anything. So the guy who said that I couldn't, he wouldn't accept my application for this theater program. So that was the start of my voiceover career, right? Because I probably was talking like this at the point that, because I had some pretty bad vocal cord notes, but this man told me I sucked and that I would never work in this field that I thought I wanted to work in. And then I went from there and somebody was like, hey, go check this thing out. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. And it was so amazing. This guy made me cry in this audition. And then I walked home feeling terrible about myself. And then literally within 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, I was the voice of Toyota cars, doing TV commercials. And still waiting tables at the Cheesecake Factory, but that's another story. But, don't let people tell you that whatever the thing is that is, wrong with you, the thing that people tease you about, the thing that people tell you is, weird about you, is usually the thing that's going to be your superpower. So just keep that in mind, because, and just, if someone tells you no, just rephrase the question.
Yeah, I like that. And speaking of questions, I think we are coming up here for some audience questions.
Hit me, ask me anything.
Let's, I think we only have the 2 mics, so I'm going to go join our audience.
Okay.
You keep one.
I was like,
you'll need to answer
here,
them.
Hold on. I'll do it. Hey.
Oh, no.
Hi.
Go off the stage.
Why? What happens? I'll jump back up. Hold
Somebody
on. Hi.
who fortunately is not here would yell at me.
When you think of the movie.
Oh, the one with Tom Hardy? What do I think about it? Oh my gosh. I'm super excited and I'm scared, but I have a huge crush on Tom Hardy, so I'm not sure how this is going to work out for me, because I think maybe, I love him now, but I might not love him afterwards. So, or I might love him more, which is going to really scare me. Right?
Basically, you're not in the same boat, but how do you exactly
That is basically.
Maybe I don't even need to go see the movie.
We just saw it. That's probably the majority of the experience. Does anyone else have any other questions? Fantastic.
Tell us about the t-shirt you're wearing.
Ooh,
Oh my God, I love you
What are
so
you
much.
wearing?
I love you so much. My t-shirt is designed by me.
And it says, we got the badge in the way. Nerds vote.
Nerds vote. I love you for asking. And
Yay.
not a plant. So I started this thing because I was unhappy with the way things were going in the world about just about 10 months ago. And I was talking to Ashley Birch. Do you guys know who Ashley Birch is?
Love Ashley Bird.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, I'm totally just trading currency on my friends. But I'm like, Ashley and I are besties, and she plays Enid and OKKO, and we hang out all the time. So we were eating chips at a Mexican place, and maybe a margarita.
Margaritas?
Yes, margaritas. Just they're very big margaritas.
Okay.
Just one.
One, but very large.
Right, and also Ashley is seriously, she can fit in my pocket, so we have to, I was feeding her with an eyedropper.
Good. A thimble.
Yes, exactly. She was taking little sips off of the egg cup. And I was like, I feel like, you know, we're always working in these, in rooms by ourselves. Like, how can we affect any change? Because we're never around people. And then I was like, wait a second, we actually go to conventions. And so it sparked this whole conversation where I was like, what a target-rich environment of people who are underrepresented.
Yes.
For, you know, I mean, nerds have been underrepresented or made fun of and not taken into account for a long time.
I remember being very thoroughly teased.
Right, like I was a punk rocker and I felt completely marginalized, and that's, you know, and so all of us can relate to feeling like we're not being represented. And I was like, here's a whole group of people who are right around voting age, and now they're letting you pre-register to vote in California, especially. And I was like, wouldn't that be cool if we could get the opportunity to just register as a nonpartisan thing? Yeah. And so I had talked to Dragon Con a couple of years ago, and they said, we don't do politics. And I was like, this isn't really politics, this is civic duty, right? I'm not telling you who to vote for or what party to register for or anything. Absolutely. Just get out and use this power that you have. And so they said no a couple of years ago, and then I hit them up this year, and I was like, how about now? Because we got our cool t-shirts and stuff, and our usual logo is Nerds Vote with some broken glasses with some tape in the middle. And I do have stickers and I have pins, so if you come hang out with me during signings and stuff, I'll have some of those for you. But we were welcome to Dragon Con. We register hundreds of people to vote at every convention that we've gone to so far, and people are learning about pre-registering, and they're also learning about something called Turbo Vote. You can go to turbovote.com and you'll get SMS messages so that you don't miss a voting day. So it'll say like, hey, you know, just remember, like, next week's voting day, and then tomorrow's voting day. And what Nerds Vote is also doing, we're in the process right now of putting together a Nerds Vote party, so that we have a menu that you can print up. You can make cocktails and non-alcoholic beverages. You and your friends get together like the night in the days before voting day, which is November 6th.
November
6th. And you get together, you make some snacks, you have some cocktails or some juice, and you and your friends go through the issues and talk about them so that you're ready to roll the next day. You're not walking in like, I don't remember which judge, I don't know what's happening. And you don't have to tackle looking at everything. You can just be like, hey, you be in charge of this judge and you be in charge of this senator, and then we'll go through and we'll read the pros and cons. So you can do it beforehand, or you can have we all voted today, we're awesome, let's get together and have snacks.
That's an amazing way of encouraging people to like become educated on the
Yeah, and make it fun, right? Because, I mean, people die in other countries for the opportunity to vote, and women fought for the opportunity to vote, and representation is important. If you've ever felt like you were marginalized, if you've ever felt like your voice didn't matter, that your opinion didn't matter, it does matter. And this is a way for all of us to get together as the group of people who likes to do this stuff. This is our jam. These are our friends.
This is our tribe.
This is our tribe, and these are our people, and so get together and make sure that your voice is heard, and have a good time while you're doing it. And what better way than to do, like, as a party? And also, you can get on Twitter and you can talk to Steve Bloom, who's the voice of Wolverine and everything else, you know, Cowboy Bebop and everything, right? But he'll totally be like, how cool is that? Like, if you come to a place, you can take a photo with him, and then just think about that. Like, if he's like, hey guys, register, and you're like, I registered, and he's like, you're awesome. Like, you have this amazing direct line to the people that inspire you and their work that you like, and you can have a conversation about that.
Plus, if Wolverine tells you to vote and you don't, yeah, you don't want that to happen.
Right. Right.
I think we've got time for another couple of questions over here.
What was it like working with Kari and Walgreen for Guild Wars? Did you get to interact much, especially for the new content coming out?
It's Kari like Ferrari and Walgren like, what rhymes with Gren? Friend. She's my friend. She's very difficult. She's a total diva. It's like the car service, the champagne on site, the water temperature. She has to have like some pH water that's like, I don't know, 69 degrees.
She sounds terrible, and you definitely don't want to stick around after this
right,
panel.
Because diva.
But she will be here later, just in case.
She's right there, actually.
Oh.
She's right there, yeah. So she knows. No, I did not get to actually personally work with her on Guild Wars because we all record separately, but I do get to work with her on OKKO because she plays Shannon, who is one of my arch nemesises. Is that a word? Nemesis? Nemesis?
Nemesis, I think?
I like nemesi because it's plural, but she's yes, exactly.
Nemesorians.
She's very nemmy. And she's super fun. She sings, she comes alive behind the mic. It's like, she's kind of bipolar. Shh, don't tell her. But like,
I don't think she'll know.
No, she won't. She's this like lovely woman from Kansas who's super sweet. She's my neighbor, she's my best friend, and she gets behind the mic and then she turns into like a drunk bunny rabbit or like a very timid little tumbleweed or a million different things, and you just go like, whoa, and then she backs it all back up and is like, sweetie, honey, do you want to go for a margarita? And I'm like, okay, great. Not that we all drink margaritas every single day or anything.
No.
No.
It's
But
just,
like,
you know,
yeah.
if you're an adult of legal drinking age
Right.
and you drink responsibly,
That's right.
margaritas are golden.
Exactly, especially after you watch Kari doing the diarrhea song for 20 minutes, which I did say last night. I do have a video on my phone, so if you come by while I'm signing, I will play that video for you.
What an incentive to come
I know.
to signing.
That's right.
Excellent. Any other questions from our fabulous audience? I'm going to do a light jog. There we go. That's my workout for the day.
Hi, so yesterday you mentioned that you, as terms of voice acting, you started off in commercial voice acting and transitioned to character voice acting. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how that transition went for you.
Sure. Thank you. That's an awesome question. So I did start out doing commercials, and then people kept saying, oh, you should do video games. And I'm like, I'm trying. And I kept auditioning, and I didn't book anything. And I was like, I feel like I have a tough girl voice, and like, you know, like I know how to take a punch and stuff like that. Like, this is my jam. And I think the thing with voiceover is that there's so many people that do so many different voices, so you can populate a game or an animated series with very few people. And so if it isn't broke, don't fix it. It's that idea of like, I know people who can already do this, why would I go with somebody who's an unknown quantity? But there was a director named Chris Zimmerman who has she gave me my first opportunity. I worked on a Star Trek game doing some additional voices. And I think from there, they kind of realized, like, word gets around, and really there's very few directors direct a lot of the games. So it is a very kind of insular thing, and I think once you kind of break through and people know what you can do, then you become one of those people that they kind of reach for a lot. But it did take me, I'd say, I moved to Los Angeles in '98, I think, and I really started working in games in like 2002 or 2003 was when it first started. So just patience, and then also Chris Zimmerman gave me my first animated job on regular show as well. So being nice to people always is a great plan of action.
In everything.
In everything,
Just
absolutely.
be super nice.
Yeah, be super nice. Don't get walked on, but be super nice and polite to people, and tell them that you love them, and you know, deep friendships always help. A rising tide lifts all boats. But and as far as like animation goes, I still take animation classes. It's not the thing that I'm like a natural at. So in almost every part of voiceover, I've been doing it for 20 years, but I believe you can always learn new things. And so when I'm sitting in a session, I'm watching Kari, I'm watching Ashley Birch, I'm watching Roger Craig Smith do their thing, and I'm paying attention to try and get better. And I'm learning how to sing, which I don't sing, and so...
I'm pretty sure we heard a little bit of singing last night.
That was like yodeling.
It was great yodeling.
But yeah, I think that it's been a really nice journey because it's felt like it's like this instead of this and this, which is harder. But I think that it's been more like this because I keep trying to add more tools to the toolkit. So
Never stop learning.
that's right.
All right. I think we have time for one more audience question. I'm seeing just like the tiniest little wave over here. I saw ya.
Hello, Courtenay.
Hi.
This is kind of an obscure question from an obscure game, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. What can you tell me about playing the character Heather Poe? Just hoping you remember. I'm just curious.
There was, you know what, so Vampire the Masquerade is, that was the first time I had played multiple actual notable roles in a game, and I kind of surprised myself because I was like, oh, I played Doris and Rosa and Heather Poe and Damsel, and Damsel was super easy for me because she's a just spaz who swears all the time, so I was like, I got this. But Heather was like this kind of feeble, druggy girl who was like, you know, oh, whatever you want. And I was like, I didn't even know I had that voice in me. It was
Expanding your range.
Yeah, it was a little disturbing. That's another great thing about voiceover is also you just have to trust that if you jump off, there'll be a net, and that whatever comes out of your mouth is gonna. That was the thing with regular show where I was like, okay, let's just try it. With Heather, it was very much, let's just try it and see if I can embody that character. And I thought, you know, she's kind of. I was a little creeped out that people liked her so much because she's really. She felt so passive to me, and I thought that Damsel was my favorite. But I also loved doing Doris and Rosa. But yeah,
It's fun to find that surprise in yourself, though.
It
You're
is.
like, I didn't think that, and then people just tell you that it was great.
And people always surprise you with the things they like. Hence, people clapping for Rubber.
Yes. Once again, clap
yeah.
for Rubber. I have to see that now.
It's something.
I'm really excited.
But yeah, I think it was really fun to find that character, especially kind of on the fly. I didn't prep for it. They kind of were just like, oh, you're doing this. And it's amazing to me that people still love that game. That it's really like, that's been what, 15 years since that game came out? And somebody was tweeting about it yesterday. And I was like, it's got some staying power. Maybe it'll come back to haunt us one day. That'd be cool.
Well, hopefully, and we're looking forward to, you said it was a new game coming out soon?
I have a couple of new games coming out.
Hush, hush, can't say anything.
Can't say, unfortunately.
But are you on social media? If people follow you, can they find out more about that?
Okay, so kids, here's the thing. This is very important. So I'm at Courtenay Taylor on Twitter, and on Instagram it's at Courtenay Taylor LA. But my name is spelled Courtenay. Court, E-N-A-Y. Courtenay, N-E-Y, is somebody different who may or may not have acted in some adult movies.
So be very careful once again.
So depending on what you're looking for, you may be surprised if it's E-N-A-Y, Courtenay.
Courtenay.
Because, and I'll leave you with this. This is why game fans are awesome. Is that I went on the boards one day when I was feeling not good about myself. Don't ever check the boards. And somebody had actually put like, hey guys, I found out who voices Jack in Mass Effect. It's this chick. And they had posted a picture of this adult model. And then somebody said, hey dude, I hate to disappoint you, but the voice of Jack is actually this chick, and had put my headshot up. And I was like, oh God. Seriously, and then from that, Mass Effect fans had a big discussion about how we looked and our bodies at work, and they came to the fact that it was a draw.
Oh.
That everybody has things that are beautiful about them and talents, and both of them are great.
You just phrased that as the only nice civil conversation that has ever happened in a message board.
Yes, and so Mass Effect fans are very close to my heart for that.
Mass Effect fans!
Woot!
Excellent. Well, that is our time for this episode of The Squiddly Show.
Thank you so much. I hope I get to talk to you guys individually. It was super fun to be here. Thank you for your great questions.
You do have your signing coming up a little bit later this afternoon.
I do. And you can also follow Nerds Vote at Nerds Vote on
Yes.
Insta and Twitter as well. And
November 6th.
November 6th. And if you want stickers, I have them. And totally looking forward to hanging out with you guys this weekend.
And Courtney Taylor's autograph session is at 2:45 this afternoon.
Okay.
Excellent.
Where's that hat, Kari Walker? Get it! Just kidding. Just kidding. I love her. She's my best friend and my neighbor. And she's going to egg my house later.
Oh no!
Just kidding.